The 1961 D. Lincoln cent, more commonly known as the 1961 D. Lincoln penny, is one of the many coins in the long-running Lincoln cent series that began in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The obverse, or head side, features a portrait of Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner, which has become one of the most iconic images in U.S. coinage. On this side, the inscriptions read, "In God We Trust," along the upper rim, "Liberty," to the left of Lincoln's bust, and the date, 1961, to the right. The small d mint mark below the date identifies that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the primary U.S. mint facilities that produced billions of Lincoln cents throughout the 20th century. The reverse, or tails side, features two stylized wheat ears curving along the left and right edges, enclosing the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America. Above the denomination is the national motto, E pluribus unum, meaning, out of many one. This wheat design, also by Brenner, was used from 1909 until 1958, after which the design was replaced in 1959 with the Lincoln Memorial Reverse, created by Frank Gasparo. Therefore, the 1961 D penny actually features the Lincoln Memorial design, not the earlier wheat ears, a symbol of continuity and national pride. The Lincoln Memorial Reverse includes tiny details such as a faint depiction of the Lincoln statue visible within the memorial itself when viewed under magnification. The 1961 D. Lincoln penny was minted in large quantities, over 1.75 billion coins, making it one of the more common issues in circulation during the early 1960s. Because of this huge mintage, most 1961 D pennies carry little numismatic premium unless they are in uncirculated or proof-like condition. Ordinary circulated examples are typically worth only their face value of 1 cent, while uncirculated coins in mint state grades can fetch between 10 and 50 cents, depending on their luster and strike quality. However, certain error coins from the 1961 D issue can be worth much more. These include double die obverse or reverse varieties, off-center strikes, die cracks, or struck-through errors. Some collectors also look for examples with strong die strikes, full details on Lincoln's hair and coat, and clean surfaces free of contact marks. The coin is composed primarily of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it a distinctive reddish-brown hue when freshly minted. Over time, exposure to air causes natural toning, turning the surface from bright red to brown or even dark chocolate in color. Collectors grade the color as RD, red, RB, red-brown, or BN, brown, and a fully red 1961 D penny in MS 65 or higher condition can sometimes command several dollars or more from dedicated Lincoln cent enthusiasts. Historically, the 1961 D penny represents a transitional period in American numismatics. The early 1960s marked the tail end of an era when coins still contained significant quantities of copper, silver, and nickel before widespread composition changes occurred later in the decade. It was also a time when the Denver Mint was heavily involved in mass production to meet post-war economic demand. Each Lincoln cent from this era carries with it the spirit of mid-century America, a nation experiencing growth, modernization, and renewed patriotism during the Cold War. The motto, "In God We Trust," had by then become a deeply rooted national statement, formally adopted on all U.S. coinage after 1956, reflecting the social and cultural sentiments of the period. The Liberty inscription symbolizes the core American value that has endured since the nation's founding, while the image of Lincoln himself serves as a reminder of unity, freedom, and equality. For collectors, the 1961 D. Lincoln cent is often an accessible entry point into the hobby. Because it is common and inexpensive, it allows beginners to learn about coin grading, mint marks, and preservation without significant financial investment. Many coin albums include a slot for the 1961 D. penny, often paired with its Philadelphia minted counterpart, 1961 no mint mark. Although it may not be rare, its historical and aesthetic value remains significant, especially considering that every coin is a small piece of the nation's story, circulated in the hands of ordinary Americans during the presidency of John F. Kennedy, a time of optimism, cultural change, and scientific advancement. The simple copper coin bearing Lincoln's face and the phrase, "In God We Trust," thus continues to represent not only monetary value but also the enduring ideals of faith, liberty, and unity that define the United States of America. Next top. 64 1-cent coin of the United States of America is one of the most widely recognized and produced coins in American history. Bearing the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, it continues a lineage that began in 1909, marking over half a century of tribute to one of the nation's most revered presidents. The obverse, or front, of the 1964 penny features the dignified profile of Lincoln, facing right, originally designed by the Lithuanian-American sculptor Victor David Brenner. This design replaced the earlier Indian head cent and was revolutionary in American coinage, the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure rather than an allegorical symbol like liberty. Along the top rim is inscribed the national motto, "In God We Trust," a phrase that has appeared on all Lincoln cents since their inception and formally became the national motto of the United States in 1956. To the left of Lincoln's bust is the word liberty, symbolizing one of the most cherished ideals of the American Republic. The date, 1964, appears to the right, identifying the year of minting, and coins struck at the Denver Mint carry a small D mint mark just below the date, while those minted in Philadelphia show no mint mark at all. The reverse, or back, side of the 1964 cent features the Lincoln Memorial design, introduced in 1959 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. This design replaced the earlier wheat ears reverse used from 1909 to 1958. Created by Frank Gasparo, the Lincoln Memorial design depicts the national monument located in Washington, D.C., rendered with remarkable detail for a coin of such small size. Careful examination, even with a magnifying glass, reveals the faint image of Lincoln's seated statue inside the memorial, symbolizing that the same man appears on both sides of the coin, a unique feature among American coinage. Above the memorial, in a bold curve, is the Latin motto, "E pluribus unum," which translates to "out of many one." This phrase reflects the unity of the states that make up the nation. Below the memorial are the inscriptions 1 cent and United States of America, denoting the denomination and the issuing country. The composition of the 1964 penny is 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, a formula used for Lincoln cents from 1959 until 1982, when the rising cost of copper led to the introduction of copper-plated zinc coins. Each coin weighs 3.11 grams, measures 19 millimeters in diameter, and has a smooth, plain edge. Its warm reddish tone when freshly minted gradually darkens with exposure to the air, developing brown or red-brown patina depending on storage conditions. Collectors categorize the coin's color as red, RD, red-brown, RB, or brown, BN, with full red examples being the most desirable. In 1964, the United States Mint produced the Lincoln cent in massive quantities to meet public demand. At the time, there was a perceived coin shortage due to the booming economy and increased consumer activity. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 2.64 billion coins, while the Denver Mint produced about 3.8 billion, bringing the total mintage to more than 6.4 billion Lincoln cents, one of the largest mintages of any coin in U.S. history. Because of this enormous production, the 1964 penny is considered very common, and most examples today are worth only their face value in circulated condition. However, despite its abundance, the 1964 Lincoln cent holds enduring interest among collectors and historians. Uncirculated or mint state examples, coins that have never been used and still retain their original mint luster, can be worth a small premium, usually between 10 cents and $1, depending on grade and color. High-grade specimens certified by professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC can fetch higher prices, especially those graded MS, 65 RD or above, where the coin retains its original fiery red color and sharp details. A few error varieties from 1964 are also sought after, such as double die obverse, DDO, coins, where the inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust appear slightly doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process. There are also off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, and struck-through debris errors, which are all collectible and can raise the coin's value substantially. From a historical perspective, the 1964 Lincoln penny reflects a period of optimism, growth, and transformation in the United States. The nation was in the midst of the John F. Kennedy era, characterized by the space race, civil rights movement, and cultural change. Ironically, 1964 was also the year following Kennedy's assassination, a moment that deeply affected the national spirit. During this time, Americans held a deep reverence for their symbols of unity and democracy, and the Lincoln cent, with its simple yet powerful design, embodied those values. The phrases "In God We Trust" and "E Pluribus Unum" stood next top. The 1965 United States 1-cent coin, commonly known as the Lincoln cent or penny, is an important piece of American numismatic history that reflects both continuity and change in the nation's coinage system. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the coin's obverse front features the enduring portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner, which by 1965 had already been in use for over half a century. Above Lincoln's head is the national motto, "In God We Trust," adopted in 1956 as the official motto of the United States, but appearing on coins long before that. To the left of the portrait is the word liberty, symbolizing one of the nation's founding ideals, and to the right is the date 1965, marking the year of minting. Notably, the 1965 cent bears no mint mark because from 1965 through 1967, the U.S. Mint temporarily removed mint marks from all coins to discourage coin hoarding during a national coin shortage. The reverse back side of the coin, designed by Frank Gasparo, features the image of the Lincoln Memorial, a design first introduced in 1959 to replace the earlier wheat ears design used from 1909 to 1958. The words "United States of America" arch along the top rim, "E Pluribus Unum," out of many one, appears above the memorial, and 1 cent is inscribed below, identifying its denomination. The composition of the 1965 penny remained the traditional 95% copper and 5% zinc alloy that had been standard since 1864, giving the coin its characteristic reddish-brown color and a weight of 3.11 grams. It measured 19.05 millimeters in diameter and had a smooth, plain edge. Millions of these coins were produced, over 1.5 billion in total, meaning the 1965 Lincoln cent is not rare in typical circulated condition. However, coins that have been well preserved in mint state, uncirculated condition, especially those with a bright red luster, can attract collector interest, particularly if they exhibit sharp strikes and few blemishes. Because mint marks were omitted, collectors cannot distinguish between coins made in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco during this period, making all 1965 cents technically identical except for their condition. The historical context of this coin adds depth to its significance. The mid-1960s were a time of economic change, and the U.S. Mint was modernizing production methods while dealing with widespread hoarding of silver coins due to rising metal prices. Although pennies were not made of silver, the minting policies affected all denominations. The 1965 penny thus represents an era of transition from traditional coinage systems toward modern mass production, while still carrying symbols of national identity and faith. The inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" remind users of enduring American ideals, while Lincoln's image serves as a tribute to unity, equality, and perseverance. Today, the 1965 1-cent piece remains common in circulation, but for collectors and historians alike, it tells a story of the nation's values, the evolution of its currency, and the resilience of one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. Next top. The 1967 United States 1-cent coin, commonly known as the Lincoln cent or Lincoln penny, stands as an enduring symbol of American identity, faith, and continuity during a decade of great national transformation. First issued in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of President Abraham Lincoln's birth, the coin's obverse front features the classic right-facing portrait of Lincoln, sculpted by Victor David Brenner, one of the most recognized and longest-used designs in U.S. coinage history. The 1967 cent proudly bears the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," along the top, affirming the nation's spiritual motto and reflecting the deep-rooted connection between American history and faith-based ideals. The word liberty appears to the left of Lincoln's profile, emphasizing one of the nation's founding principles, while the year 1967 appears to the right, signifying the year of minting. Notably, the 1967 Lincoln cent has no mint mark, a feature shared by all coins minted between 1965 and 1967, because the United States Mint temporarily suspended the use of mint marks during those years. This policy was implemented by the Treasury Department to discourage coin hoarding amid a national coin shortage caused by the rising value of silver and the transition to clad, non-silver coinage. Therefore, all 1967 cents, regardless of whether they were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, appear identical and cannot be distinguished by mint origin. The reverse back of the 1967 penny features the Lincoln Memorial, a design created by Frank Gasparo and first introduced in 1959 to replace the earlier wheat ears design used from 1909 to 1958. This design choice marked the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth and introduced a deeper layer of symbolism. If examined closely, a tiny representation of the Lincoln statue can be seen inside the memorial, making the Lincoln cent the first U.S. coin to depict the same person on both sides. The inscriptions on the reverse include United States of America. Along the upper rim, the traditional Latin phrase E pluribus unum, meaning out of many one, just above the memorial, and the denomination 1 cent below. This elegant, balanced layout captures the nation's values of unity, democracy, and remembrance of a leader who guided the country through its most divided years. From a technical standpoint, the 1967 1-cent coin was struck in the traditional 95% copper and 5% zinc alloy, maintaining a weight of 3.11 grams, a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, and a plain, smooth edge. The copper composition gives the coin its distinctive reddish-brown or deep chocolate hue, which can change over time as the metal oxidizes. The U.S. Mint produced an enormous quantity of these coins, approximately 3.05 billion pieces, making them very common in circulation and relatively easy to find today. However, despite their abundance, coins preserved in pristine mint state, MS, condition, with full luster and minimal contact marks, are highly prized by collectors. Additionally, the 1967 Lincoln cent was struck in special mint sets, SMS, rather than traditional proof sets. These SMS coins, produced with extra care at the San Francisco assay office, often display sharper details and a distinctive satin-like finish, making them desirable among numismatists. Although not true proofs, they represent the Mint's effort to maintain quality presentation coins during the period of mint mark suspension. Historically, the 1967 Lincoln penny reflects a fascinating moment in U.S. economic and social history. The mid-1960s saw major shifts in coin production policy, including the removal of silver from dimes and quarters, the redesign of minting procedures, and the modernization of equipment. While these broader changes affected silver denominations, the humble penny, made of copper, continued almost unchanged, symbolizing stability in a time of transition. Culturally, the year 1967 was one of turbulence and transformation, the height of the Vietnam War, the Civil Rights Movement, and the Summer of Love, all of which defined the decade's character. Yet amid these changes, the Lincoln cent quietly circulated in billions of hands as a small, everyday token of the nation's continuity, bearing words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and "E pluribus unum," that reinforced America's enduring ideals. The image of Lincoln, the great emancipator, remained a reassuring symbol of unity and justice. Today, the 1967 United States 1-cent coin is considered a common date in the long-running Lincoln cent series, but its story carries weight far beyond its face value. It represents the resilience of American coinage, the intersection of faith and freedom expressed through national mottos, and the endurance of an artistic design that has remained largely unchanged for more than a century. For collectors, historians, and everyday Americans alike, the 1967 penny is more than a small piece of copper. It is a